Good afternoon. So today is the last day of Christmas season. And the theme that we have chosen for the entire Christmas season this year is taken from the book of Genesis. And it is made up of the first 4 words that God speaks in the Bible. Let there be light. That's how it all begins. And we said that the second time God spoke the same words was on Christmas Day over 2,000 years ago. God said again, let there be light. When the little baby was born in Bethlehem, when Mary gave birth to Jesus. Now, in the Gospel of John, we said John describes Christmas as coming of the light into the world. And Jesus is the light. And some people accepted him, some people rejected him. And then he says something immensely significant. But the darkness did not overcome the light. Just keep that in mind. The darkness did not overcome the light. Now, today's feast of the three kings, or the Magi, or the wise men, carries on the same theme of light. It is also known as the Feast of Epiphany, a fancy Greek word that means to shine the light upon something, to make something visible, to make something that was not clear, and easy to grasp. You know, sometimes you may say to yourself, well, I had an epiphany, which means that suddenly at that moment, you understood something that you did not understand before. You could see it clearly. Maybe it was a decision you had to make, or a path you had to choose. At that moment, it was clear what needs to be done. That's what Epiphany is all about. Now, the Feast of Epiphany is often called the Feast of Lights because the symbol of light is very much present there. We see it in the book of the prophet Isaiah, the first reading, where this is what Isaiah says to us. Rise up in splendor, Jerusalem. Your light has come. The glory of the Lord shines upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick clouds cover the peoples. But upon you, the Lord shines, and over you appears his glory. Nations shall walk by your light, and kings by your shining radiance. The light has arrived. That's the message of Isaiah. And of course, Jesus is fulfillment of that promise. Jesus is the light. And the invitation for all of us is this: to walk in the light. But that's sometimes easier said than done. It's not that easy sometimes to walk in the light of God, in the light of the gospel, in the light of Christ. And we see this in today's gospel reading. The three kings visit Herod, looking for a newborn king, Jesus. And Matthew tells us this: when King Herod heard this, he was greatly troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Herod is worried. Now, Herod, if you know that, is a bad guy to begin with. And now he is worried. That's not a good combination. A bad guy who is worried. He is uneasy. He is threatened that he can lose his power, partly because the future is beyond his control. This is the first time he hears about this newborn king. And he probably is thinking to himself, I am the king. I am the king. What is this all about? King Herod is afraid of the low baby. He is afraid of the light. Herod the Great is afraid of the little baby. And that's the paradox of the story, isn't it? The great one is afraid of the little one. The ancient philosopher Plato made this observation long time ago. He said this: we can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy is when adults are afraid of the light. The real tragedy is when adults are afraid of the light. Now, obviously, darkness can be scary. But what Plato says is even more important. That light can be scary as well. And that kind of caught my attention as I was reflecting on the gospel. Light can be scary because light reveals and makes things visible. And maybe there are things we do not want to see, places we do not want to go, roads we want to avoid. So we can sometimes convince ourselves that it is easier to live in the darkness. That is a place where Herod is in, stuck in his own self-importance, desire for power, and he is threatened by a child just born. So on this feast, it seems to me that on one hand, Herod stands for everyone who is afraid of the light throughout human history for one reason or another. And on the other hand, the three kings stand for everyone who is willing to walk in the light. They challenge us to always move toward the light. They remind us that the light is on. Now, there are two things that seem to be clear when we look around. Number one is this: there is darkness in the world, and we don't pretend that there is no darkness in the world. The Bible doesn't pretend that there is no darkness. It actually presumes that there is darkness. It may be in our personal lives, in our family lives, in another part of the world, even in the church. The darkness is real. However, the light is real as well. The light is real as well. And that light is not my own light. I'm not the source of that light. I did not make it. That light helps us to see clearly. That light helps us to make decisions. That light gives us life. That light reminds us that God is alive and active and present in our lives. It is God's light. And that light shines in the darkness, maybe of loneliness, maybe of mistakes, despair, brokenness, self-doubt, self-rejection, disappointment, maybe war or divisions, and so on. That light always forgives. That light gives hope, opens the doors, brings new beginnings, welcomes everyone. That light is real. That light has a face and a name, and it is Jesus Christ.